What are some Internet of Things essentials from an IT perspective? Hi, this is Gary. This is another Gary on Manufacturing podcast. This podcast is brought to you with support from Inductive Automation. Discover a whole new view with Ignition 8 by Inductive Automation, packed with features for the modern control system like unlimited licensing, high-powered tags, and a mobile-first, flexible design environment for all devices. Ignition 8 supports enterprises of any size. See all Ignition has to offer at inductiveautomation.com. This podcast is also brought to you by Schneider Electric. Digitize to work smarter, safer, better at Foxborough and Triconics user groups, October 21 through 24 in Austin, Texas. Discover and explore the latest innovations and leading-edge technology for industrial automation and safety. Join hundreds of Schneider Electric customers, industrial automation and safety experts, and industry partners, technology specialists, and executives to create the future of process automation. You'll learn more at schneiderelectric.com. So I've talked a little bit from different travels I've had and perspectives. I missed the Dell Technologies World User Conference because I had family obligations that week. And so I spent some time trying to catch up with Jason Shepard. Not an easy task, but we caught up recently in a phone interview. Jason is one of my first contacts actually at Dell Technologies in their Internet of Things business. And like everywhere, there have been restructurings and changes and so on. But Jason is still there. He's the Chief Technology Officer for IoT and OEM at Dell Technologies. And he's also been a leader in an open source project, which is now part of Linux Foundation, and it's called EdgeX Foundry. And if you check my website, I had an update on EdgeX Foundry recently. They have released their codename Project Edinburgh, which is E is the fifth letter, but it's the fourth release. I was going to ask, I forgot. Anyway, this is the stable, built for public consumption release of EdgeX Foundry. It's an Internet of Things platform, and I think I'll get into the platforms here in just a little bit, talking about my conversation with Jason. So Jason not only is very busy and hard to catch up with at times, he had no lack of enthusiasm during our conversation on the telephone, and you just ask one question and he goes, and that's great. Appreciate interviews like that. I've had other interviews where I ask 10 questions and I get 10 words back or something. So, technology people, but they're not all like me. They can just talk and talk and talk. But anyway, Jason was talking about a number of things, and one thing is the situation that we get, and users complain about it a lot, but users don't know where to go. And this is kind of a big company kind of pain, or big company lock-in, where let's just start with the thought that a couple of years ago, it seemed like everywhere I went, everybody had a platform. I used to say all God's children got to have a platform. And what the platform was, a platform is essentially a set of open APIs. Actually, and it's so designed that all the partners can do their APIs so that things interconnect, which is all good. But a lot of them were sponsored by big companies. So I sat down with SAP a couple of times, Siemens many times, Microsoft, Cisco, and I can't even remember other people that I've talked with on these things. But the main thing that they are trying to do is connect eventually everything into their product. Kind of like if I'm SAP, I have enterprise applications, and I need to connect all this factory floor data, supply chain data, and inventory data, and all this kind of stuff. I need to get it into my enterprise system so that my enterprise system will work better and do the things that I promised 10 years ago when we implemented the whole thing. And other people are the same way. It's a way to connect into their large applications. Users aren't always, I mean, they'll do it and they're happy, and they buy control systems from one of the 4 or 5 majors, whoever's left standing right now. It's the same way with enterprise systems. I've got a choice of a couple, 3. Design systems, I've got a choice of a couple, 3 maybe, and so on. But users really hate to get locked in. They'd like to flexibility, they'd like choice, they'd like to be able that if the vendor comes in and says, sorry, I'm going to raise my rates 30%, they could say, okay, you can raise your rates, we'll go across the street and get the same thing. And that's a typical tension of users who like everything. They like to have a single source of contact and that sort of thing, but really they also need flexibility and the ability to change if change is necessary, or what happens if a company is acquired and goes out of business, or whatever it might be. Nobody knows the future anymore, as if we ever did, and so that gets to be a situation. So one way you can get away with it, or get away from this kind of thing, is a platform that's open source. Open source means I can get into the code if I need to, or I can hire somebody to get into the code. That's cool. And it's an open platform. Anybody can join, any partner. So EdgeX has several companies that would be competitors, in fact are competitors, but they're in the same thing, and people can connect to everybody. And it's a play to many end user customers, in this case in Industrial Internet of Things, being able to connect a lot of different things through a lot of different gateways to a lot of different software applications and platforms. So we go on this. One of the key things Jason talked about was transparency of data, and we talked a lot about EdgeX and the way he was involved in beginning the whole project some time ago, and how that's been growing, and the stable platform release that we just had. And then we talked about, so as Dell has been putting together, after Michael Dell took Dell private, and then did an acquisition, a major, huge acquisition of EMC, and VMware came along, and VMware is pretty cool embedded software stuff. And that's all. It seemed to look to me like there was a digestion period. There are certain animals in the animal kingdom that when they have a meal, it takes them a long time to digest it. And I think that was kind of like the Dell EMC coming together. It took a while to digest the whole thing, and it looks like it's coming together pretty well now. I'm not going into any details on all that, most of which I really don't even know, but it looks like it's coming together. But at least in the part that I'm concerned about, things have settled in. The team is coming into place. They've found a niche within the organization, and Jason is really super excited and going out there. And he talks about bringing, if I have this EdgeX Foundry open platform, open source platform, and he goes to the rest of his fellow CTOs and says, well, you have this product and this product, and so on. What if we, and he gets them all excited also, and working together and speccing out some product roadmaps and so on to make use of all this. And basically this EdgeX platform, as Jason explained to me, has a lot to do with allowing disruptive small technology vendors a place to have a foothold and do some disruption without getting buried by the big guys. Sometimes they're acquired and then the technology just kind of gets absorbed, or sometimes they just get put out of business by the big guys. This is an opportunity for a lot of smaller technology players to do some pretty intense innovation and have a way to get it recognized and purchased and used for most end users anyway. Some end users may have a lock-in, but a lot of them don't. So another part of this whole Dell Technologies thing, and part of the whole thing, I've always looked at the IoT part of these big companies. Say, well, it's kind of like the original IoT thing was a gateway at Dell. And I said, I don't know that you'll be able to sell enough of these things to make Michael happy. And of course, they do have to sell enough of them to make him happy, but it's not going to change their whole business. It's not that big of a business. However, if they couple like the gateways that they have with a lot of other things, a lot of applications, and so Jason was talking about engineered solutions. One of the biggest engineered solutions I'm running across lately are what we might call surveillance, which can be a bad or a good term, but it is very useful for a lot of applications. So video technology has come a long way, and we can stream video, compressed bits, and so on, and it becomes a very interesting Internet of Things play. And so Dell has been working with partners on computer vision, and things like worker safety is really big. Retail is another one. Shoplifting is a huge expense for retail, for example. Other applications in manufacturing, and I've talked about other ones in the past with a variety of companies. So this is a way to leverage EdgeX, bring in different companies, security, and so on, and vision, and do a really cool application that will have meaningful impact within, a process plant. Scalable infrastructure. So if I use a platform like an EdgeX that's open source, and it becomes scalable, and we can add the APIs, different vendors can come in, different partners come in, and we have all that. One of the keys that Jason sees is device management. Dell Technologies, VMware, has a product called Pulse. It's fairly new. I have not delved into that very much, but it's a device management application. And Jason sees that as a very important thing in the future. Device management is huge for IT professionals. Lots of devices running around there, and do I know anything about them, and how do I integrate them, and all that. So I look at device management as a key, along with Jason's input on all that. And then we talked about federated analytics. Analytics is interesting. It's no longer necessarily a huge monolithic application platform or software platform. It's we federate it and put together different things. I've looked at some of this stuff, and we're not looking for big monolithic things with a huge display screen with tons of buttons and graphs and charts and flashing lights and so on. Really, we're getting down to something you can put on a mobile device that just tells that particular user in that particular role the 2 or 3 things that they need to know right now, and if they need to know more, they can just punch and drill in and find things. We're getting much more sophisticated about that whole thing. And then we talked about clouds a little bit, how mega clouds are now in a process of trying to lock users in, just kind of like the mega control systems tried to have their whole thing where you needed to only buy everything from this one particular control system vendor, and then the user would say, yeah, but I really can't, and I'd like to be able to patch other things in, and it was difficult. Clouds are going that same way. So these platforms like an open source like EdgeX is a good antidote to that, where you can use a cloud but not be locked into the cloud. So anyway, that is a really quick catch up with my conversation with Jason Shepard of Dell Technologies, and it's really cool. A lot going on there. I hadn't seen much in the way of press releases, and I was a little concerned, but then after talking to Jason, an awful lot of work has been done kind of behind the scenes preparing things, and a lot of users already in place, and they have a few use cases that I'll delve into later, but I'm running out of time for this episode of the podcast Carry On Manufacturing. So thanks for listening, and remember, this podcast is brought to you with the support from Inductive Automation. Discover a whole new view with Ignition 8 by Inductive Automation, packed with features for the modern control system like unlimited licensing, high-powered tags, a mobile-first, flexible design environment for all devices. Ignition 8 supports enterprises of any size. I typically go to their user group and I talk to a lot of the users. Always better to talk to the users. And they tell me they love Ignition. They like the pricing. And the product is really good. You take the pricing structure that they have and it just puts it over the top. And they really like that. This podcast is also brought to you by the Digitize to Work Smarter, Safer, Better at Foxborough and Triconics user group, October 21 through 24 in Austin, Texas. Check that out. Links are on my website, themanufacturingconnection.com. And this is Gary signing out with another Gary on Manufacturing podcast. Thanks for listening.